Welcome back, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us once again. If you like the podcast, please like the podcast, join, subscribe. I'm so excited that I have my friend Steve Craig joining me today. We met on social media, which a lot of you have met me on social media, and then live and in person. And now I can't seem to get away from him. We just seem to meet everywhere at every dental conference. He's like what was that? The Amex card? He's everywhere you want to be, or is that the Visa card? I don't remember. Anyway, Steve is the Solmetex Director of Special Markets, which means he works with DSOs, and he's in the East, bringing over 20 years of experience to DSO and the dental industry. So he's got me by a couple years there. He believes that in the prime era for dental industry's growth and innovation, water being primary dental tool, its purity and safety are vital for patient care. As a champion for water quality, he's dedicated to leaving a legacy of safeguarding dental water for practices, patients, and the environment. Solmetex offers cutting-edge dental water solutions, simplifying processes, saving time, and ensuring unparalleled safety and compliance standards. Please help me welcome my friend, Steve. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, Greg. I appreciate the time.
So I gotta ask, right out of the gate. I mean, water, right? It seems so simple. Use a ton of it. You got to have a lot of irrigation, especially in full arch clinics that I work in. If not, you overheat the bone, get bone necrosis, implant failure, all that good stuff, right? Dull drills. We can go on and on. So tell me a little bit about water and how you came into water being such a critical element in what you're doing over there. Is it Solmetex, by the way? I thought I had that right.
Solmetex, pretty close. It's a tough one.
Solmetex, I'm so wrong. And we're not even going to be able to edit that out because I said it so many times. Solmetex. I'll get it right by the end of the show. So talk to me about your story, buddy. Tell me a little bit about how you got involved with Solmetex.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've been in sales leadership for over 30 years. I started my healthcare career in the ophthalmic space, and I was looking for something different. And somebody I knew somebody that was looking for help at Johnson and Johnson, the dental space, and took a chance and entered dental. And that was almost 21 years ago, and I'm still here. But I spent about 19 years at one organization, really in the hygiene space, and an old CEO of mine reached out to me and had an opportunity in this space. I think dental water is something I never thought about. I think it's what most people in dentistry don't think about. Like you said, we run into each other a lot at dental shows, conventions, on social media. And I hear from people all the time, like, I've been in dentistry forever. I've never really thought about water. Or, I've been a hygienist for 18 years and I didn't even realize I was supposed to do anything with my water until I went to an OSAP or an OSHA conference or some type of thing like that, where they're talking about compliance and then it comes out. So, but when you really break it down, I mean, water is the most used instrument in dental practice, which people don't think about, but it is the lifeblood of the practice. It's something they need just about every single procedure with the exception of ortho. So it's something that we take serious, and we're really trying to help keep offices safe and compliant, but also try to make things easy, because we are pretty much the only comprehensive lineup that offers end-to-end water solutions, not only from water in to water through to water out, and all the challenges that come from trying to keep that water safe and pure.
Well, and even in ortho offices, you talk about water and maybe not the water solution that you have, but they're using water. They're cleaning instruments. They have water in their restrooms. Water is literally everywhere, right? I think it makes up 75% of the human body, if I'm not mistaken. That's why when there's a full moon, I always feel a little weird. Well, it could be the wolf in me too, but that's a whole nother story for another day. Wasn't it Michael J. Fox or something? The wolf something? I don't remember the name. Somebody on socials will point me out. Seriously, you don't remember that? You're 52, Greg. Come on. I know you grew up with those movies. But, one of the things that you sparked a thought, and it's really about awareness, right? And it's awareness. So I have a client of mine in the Portland area, and he had mentioned just a few weeks ago that, they're supposed to be back flushing once every quarter or something like that to clean the lines out. And I have a dental device that I wear because I have mild airway obstruction. And I got this device fitted by my dentist. Gosh, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago. And, I don't know this, but my husband tells me, right, that my snoring was reduced significantly. What I know is that I'm not getting up 4 or 5 times, waking up 4 or 5 times, 7 times in the middle of the night. It's reduced significantly. And so I know it helps a ton. But the reason it comes up, because the water in the dish, because I put water in a dish, and like I use one of the, like the denture, cleanser things, the fizzy things, and I just think like if I were just to use regular water to try, like, because I did for a while, and I'm like, well, I don't need to use one of those tablets every night, and I'm thinking, are you crazy? Like, you've got to do something with the water. So I can only imagine the water coming through those lines, and if it's just sitting there overnight, because it doesn't like flush dry, and there's no, right, just like if you leave towels in a washing machine overnight, like what happens to them after you dry? They get that moldy smell and you never get it out. So is that similar to what your thinking logic is with the water lines? Like they just get like moldy and nasty? That's what I'm thinking, and I don't know anything about it. I'm just throwing it out there. Similar or something even
Absolutely.
crazier?
I
Yeah.
think you nailed it. I wear a similar device too, and I put the little fizzy things in myself. So it is about making sure you're keeping yourself safe and compliant, but it's also keeping the office safe and compliant. So it's a whole host of things. Not all water quality is the same. Obviously, the aquifers are drying up. Water is becoming a scarcity worldwide. We don't really experience much of it in the U.S. Other portions of the world do. But it's not just the water coming in and out of the practice. It's a whole host of things, from the bacteria that's in the lines, how we treat the lines, do we flush out our instruments. It impacts, like we said, every part of dentistry and how they want to address that. And fortunately or unfortunately, it's a little bit of everything out there. About half the offices treat their water. About half the offices test their water. So it's kind of that dirty little secret in dentistry of water treatment.
Gotcha. And I don't know. I'm literally, this is brand new information I'm learning, and maybe I should have done some research ahead of time on this. But I love when I get to learn from guests that come on, because this is your field. This is your area of expertise. And for my listeners, I have listeners across the board. Some are clinicians, some are in the manufacturing side, some are dental assistants, and all across the board. Are there like regulations about what you have to do or can or should do that are different from state to state that determine what, the who, what, when, where, why, and how they have to treat their water lines, and their systems?
There are regulations, obviously, as you know, that there's 50 states. They kind of all kind of jur just differently and how they look at things. Where Solmetex really started was in the amalgam collection business. We're in probably 95% of offices right now with our NXT HD5 system, which what it does is pull out all the amalgam out of
95%.
the
So, I
system.
mean, you pretty much
Pretty
own the
much.
market in that area. Okay.
Pretty much. It's been around for quite some time, and like I said, it's a system that works incredibly well. It really helps keep not only the patients and the practice safe, but more importantly, the environment safe. Obviously, dentistry is the largest pollutant of amalgam waste outside of manufacturing. And what we really try to do is really capture that amalgam, keep the environment safe, and that's kind of where everything started from. We since have purchased Stericyl, which is more in the water treatment line. So it does everything from testing, from shocking, everything from dropping tablets to really where most DSOs are going is with straws. And obviously, we have the only silver ion technology straw out there. Everything else works a little bit differently. But the huge advantage of that, not only does it give you 20 times water quality, it's less to maintain. The hard part with a lot of the other straws in the market is you have to dump the water bottle every single night. You got to put a dummy straw in, let the straw dry out. Certain parts of the country, they're not crazy about dumping water. Whereas our solution, you put a straw in once a year. It has built-in shock, and you don't really touch it for another year when you go to replace that straw. So ours has one step to maintain it. All the other competitors on the market have about 257, 258 steps, as long as they're following the IFU to maintain that straw. And then we also work with Dry Shield. We purchased Dry Shield, which is evacuation dentistry. So, it's really come on. It came on big during the COVID experience for aerosols. But now it's really looking at that staffing shortage, whether that would be the offices fully staffed or offices that are not fully staffed. It really helps make a dentist more efficient. But really where we see a lot is the hygienists and also assistants. They love it because assistants can now kind of really work with their doctor, really work on that four-handed dentistry. They're not worrying about the suction. It's doing it for them. They don't have to worry about the patient, moving, getting their tongue out of the way, all those type things. So that has really taken off in the DSO space to really help with that. So that's kind of our solutions of systems. We also have vacuums, vacuum line cleaners, like you talked about, making sure the lines are good. The only time people really worry about that is, if you're obviously in the full arch. If the suction's not really well, the dentist isn't very happy. So we try to make sure those lines are clean, make sure the water lines are clean. And we have a whole host of products, like I said, a full solution to not only keep the patients, the office, and the environment safe, but also they're all smart products. So they really help save time and effort for the staff.
Well, and it's not only like in those finite cases that they're doing in dentistry, but it's also in the full arch where it's like on the macro level of cases where there's lots of, bone reduction and things of that nature, where they're taking out large pieces of or large volume of, you name it, fill it in, right? Where that suction, excuse me, is so critically important, which there is really where I'm sure it becomes completely evident if there are lines that are not clean or that are working most efficiently. One thing that you pointed out, and I love it, I was literally like thinking of words as you were talking, and you started throwing them out, right? The four-handed dentistry and the efficiency pieces, which are just essential, right? And the efficiency piece, so much so in the DSO space, and we're hearing this over and over and over. You and I are attending a lot of the same conferences for DSOs and groups and emerging groups. And, I was fortunate enough to speak at the AADGP from the main stage, talking about topics like that and patient experience. But one of the things that we're hearing so consistently over the last year and a half is that same store sales, and that increase the same store sales year over year growth. And when you're talking about efficiencies and being able to remove the need for an extra human being, right, with a product like Dry Shield that's able to create the efficiencies, and doing that on a grand scale, and doing that across 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 500, 1,000 practices. When you can have scalability like that, you can really reduce the pressures on recruitment team, on an HR team, on that side of it, plus also on the human impact side of it. We talk about human impact on patient experience and whatnot, but also on your team and team environment. When you can create a better work environment for staff members, when that happens, they tend to be more engaged. They tend to have better experience in their work environment, and they tend to stay longer. Because, we can say, throw more money at the problem. That's not always the situation. Work on the culture and the practice. That certainly helps, of course. But when you look at ergonomics, when you look at how their satisfaction with the work they actually do, because most of them are in it. Most of the people in dental are in it to be able to provide exceptional patient care. And when they can do so by not fighting with the tongue, or knowing that they're going to bite the tongue, or their tongue's going to get, there's so many subtle pieces to what you're sharing. And I'm just pointing out a few of them for the listening audience. And they're probably thinking of 5 or 6 others and laughing and saying, Greg, come on now. There's so many more you're missing, or that's not really the top 3 even, because you're not so much from clinical side. You could talk about being in, surgeries and full arch all you want, how many you've been in. But, it's not my lane. But I just pointed out because it is so much more than just a product that does this. It has its repercussions across the board. Have you seen that like firsthand, or have you heard about that from some of the C-suite individuals that you work with, or is that part of what you talk about in value add? And I know I'm just narrowing down into Dry Shield, but I know that product specifically, it's an expense, right? If it's the P&L statement, folks, they're looking at it as an expense. If you're talking to individuals who really look at other parts of the process, practice, and everything, it's a much different conversation. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I'd love to hear your perspective on that and what you're seeing and hearing from teams that you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to Dry Shield, we hear that a lot because, like I said, with the assistants, they can now focus on four-handed dentistry and really help be more efficient for that doctor. For the doctors, it speeds up the time of the procedures. They're not waiting for patients to need to spit, waiting for patients to make sure they're not biting their tongue, moving, ask them to do a lot of those things. So it really allows both the assistant and the doctor to be more efficient. But like I said, with a lot of our products, we hear a lot from, we deal a lot with compliance officers, with procurement officers, those type positions, clinical officers. They see the time savings that we're able to offer, whether it be, like I said, with the Stericyl straw. Your dental assistant's installing that once a year versus having to go through 258 steps every year to maintain that straw. That's a tremendous savings. The amalgam collection, it's true and trusted that they know that it's doing what it needs to do, and it's very simple to maintain and replace the cartridge. But we go even beyond that. We have a thing called the My Solution Center, which allows both procurement, compliance, all those different type officers to manage what's going on in their practice. So it's a thing where they can see the national, regional office views of, when would their collection container need to be changed out? When does their straw need to be changed out? Are they in compliance with their amalgam buckets? Are they in compliance with their water testing? It gives them a one-stop shop to really manage all that, which we hear from a lot of compliance teams that it's almost like one of their partners, one of their teammates that's taking a lot off their plate. Unfortunately, especially in the mid-market in emerging DSOs, they're wearing a lot of hats. A compliance officer, a procurement officer might be doing what 7 people are doing at one of the larger DSOs. So it really helps aid them. But the other thing we hear a lot from the staff is, and from doctors and clinical teams, is it's hard to get staff right now. Marco Velchek just gave up on the Health Policy Institute. Staffing was the number one issue. Consolidation was number 2, and then insurance was number 3. So we really help with that staffing issue of the more you can take off an individual's plate to make them happier doing the job that they really wanted to do and not all the ancillary things, the happier they're going to be in that practice. And then for consolidation, we know it's taking off. We know it's happening more and more. We're going to continue to see it. The more compliant an office is, the more advantageous it is for the larger DSOs to want to acquire them, to consolidate them, because they're doing the right things every day. And it's a lot easier to fold them into the umbrella of that larger DSO. So those are just some of the things that we're really trying to help partner with our offices to make them more efficient, save them time and money.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. And speaking with Steve Craig here with Solmetex, I think I got that right this time. Maybe not. You let me know. But one of the things that you're pointing out, and you said so clearly, is time, right? Getting back time. Whether it's with the straw solution you mentioned, the dry shield, or any of the myriad of products that you offer to your groups, especially to your DSOs, and especially those emerging groups where they're, individuals are wearing 6 or 7 hats and being able to, find solutions for efficiency for them, because the most expensive thing in any dental practice is their time, right? And that's what's critically important. And I love that you point that out. So can you share with me, is there any one particular client you work with as director of the I think it's director level of special markets, the DSOs on the East Coast, that really come to mind where your products and solutions were brought in and how it really made a significant impact for them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we work with most of the major DSOs, and a lot of the small emerging are really starting to come on. Like I said, one example I can share with you is there were two situations were happening in this group. One, the compliance officers wearing a lot of hats. Everybody inside their group is wearing a lot of hats. There is an EPA law that they should be capturing their amalgam. The time to install that is well past. They should have been doing that. Well, they had been through consolidation, acquiring a lot of practices, opening up a lot of de novos. They were safe there. But on the acquisition side, they had quite a few offices that were not compliant, being that they didn't have an amalgam system in their practice. They weren't capturing that amalgam. We were able to load them into the My Solution Center. We came up with a lot of, it kind of goes red, yellow, and then there's blue where we don't know what's going on. And we were able to find out that there were a lot of opportunities there where if unfortunately, if an inspector came in, they would have been in a little bit of trouble because they weren't capturing that amalgam. So we were able to get systems into that practice and help them out. Another situation was, through the staffing shortages. I had a DSO where we were on the call and they had failed their water test 2 months in a row. We had a conversation and they brought the assistant on who was in charge of, dropping the tablets every morning. And unfortunately, that person was no longer there. Someone spoke up from operations, said she left 2 months ago. They're like, oh, okay, well, she was replaced by so-and-so. Well, so-and-so gets on the phone and goes, oh, nobody ever told me I was supposed to do that. So for 2 months, nobody was dropping tablets, kind of like, in your situation with your mouth guard, you weren't dropping tablets for 2 months. You can imagine what that mouth guard looked like. So we were able to
Not
talk to them
pretty.
about installing Stericycle. Yeah, not pretty.
Smell or
So we were able
sight.
to talk to them about absolutely. So they were able to, introduce Ceracell straws where now, those are installed once a year and they don't have to worry about it. Now the My Solution Center tracks that of when those need to be replaced, and it takes that human error out of it, which the staff really appreciated. Because it's one of those jobs that nobody wants to do. They don't want to empty water bottles and put in dummy straws or drop tablets every day and hope to remember that. They have busy lives and they're trying to get in when they can and get out when they can. So those are probably two real world examples where we've really been able to help out that DSO be a lot, like I said, a lot more safe and compliant.
Yeah, and putting systems and workflows in place are so critically important. And when you can automate that, as it sounds like you do for these groups and practices, especially if they're growing or even if they're not growing and there's just turnover of individuals, there's so much to be taught to new members of a team in order to integrate so that they can focus more on the patient experience and not so much on what are the A, B, C's, D's, E, F, G, H, I, all the way through the Z's of making sure that compliant, right? For one, so that they don't get dinged if somebody does come in from OSHA, or they don't get, go right down the list, because there's just so much to know and learn. And there's such a big investment in a new employee from an employer's standpoint and from the standpoint of those DSOs that are onboarding. I mean, they talk about what is the cost of onboarding a new employee, right? So that's why you really want to invest in your existing employees. And I think the phrase goes, you invest in employees to the point where they don't want to leave, or it's too, anyway, I don't remember there's a quote out there. I'll have to come up with it and put it in the show notes and say, yeah, maybe Merv's my producer could backtrace that. But, you invest in them so much that they're so valuable that they have enough education, but they love you so much that they don't want to leave. That's not the phrase. Somebody will remind me.
Richard Branson.
Anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Is it Richard Branson?
Richard Branson.
Do you know the phrase? Do you know
well,
the quote?
It goes very similar to what you said. It's you want to educate them well enough so they can leave, but you want to treat them well enough so they don't leave.
That's what it is. Thank you for letting me struggle on the vine. See, that's what a good friend does. They let you sit there and waver
That's called growth
in
and
the
learning,
breeze
right?
for a little bit. I love it. Oh, Steve. Well, this is the point of the program. All of my guests play a little something called What the Sleuth is Going On? It's 3 rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to mind, are you ready to play?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. What's the worst bad breath you've ever encountered?
Oh, boy. Actually, my brother was visiting this weekend, and we actually were talking about it. So we had an 8th grade basketball coach where you didn't want to get too close to him. And if it was not a good day on the court, he would grab you by the jersey and pull you closer, and you were struggling to get away. So I can still smell that like it was yesterday. And like I said, 8th grade was a long time ago.
So you make a bad play in basketball, so you feel bad about that with your teammates, and then you get the coach's breath in your face. That's like the trifecta.
Yeah,
I like that one.
It was not a good experience.
Back to 8th grade basketball. That takes me back. Wolf Middle School. Shout out to all of you who listen that know Centerline High School system. Wolf Middle School. Love it. Oh, and we were just talking about a wolf earlier in the full moon. Now we're coming full circle.
Now I know why you're the wolf.
Podcast. Yeah. All right, question number 2. If you could change one thing about your smile, what would it be?
Probably get into some Invisalign and whitening. When I was a kid, my orthodontist said I was good enough. I was the youngest of 3, so since they heard that news, they said, well, we've already put 2 through, so if he's good enough, let's go. So that's kind of my experience, and it's what it is.
So you're save a few bucks, Steve.
Yes.
That's what happened to you with the ortho.
Parents out a little bit.
I love it. Yeah, I went through clear aligner therapy myself, and yeah, I'm glad I did. As an adult, not as a kid. Yeah, I mean, I was the youngest of 6 kids, and I told you the school district. You can look it up. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of cash flow going around for discretionary income to fix teeth. All right, question number 3. If you could go back and be the inventor of any dental product, which one would you choose and why?
There's not a ton of blockbusters in dentistry, but I think in dentistry they always talk about the over treatment, but nobody talks about the under treatment. And it seems like to me, kind of the intraoral camera or kind of the new scanner devices, I think they're really opening up that door for AI to come in and not only make sure that people are looking at the patient correctly and diagnosing correctly, but also probably helping, safeguard the patient to buy into the experience and want to move forward with treatment. Because unfortunately, in dentistry, a lot of times there's no such thing as dental insurance, but a lot of times they think whatever is covered by insurance is probably what I need. So I think those tools have really kind of opened up that gate. And like you said, AI is the buzz right now. It's all we hear about. But I think they're going to help drive that and really protect them probably against the insurance companies.
Yeah, I love the way that AI is just exploding and exponentially increasing the ability to educate the layperson, the patient, on treatment and the who, what, where, why. Looking at a black, white, and gray, either Apico, not Apico, sorry, Apico. Now I'm talking about treatment. Looking at a pano or an X-ray, they have no idea. Like even us in the industry who look at them day in day out, they look at and to be able to point out and say this right here, and it outlines and it'll do it in color and it'll show you shapes and say this is what this is, and AI enhanced abilities and tools to be able to show and share and to be able to streamline what is being seen by the human eye, I think is great. Well, in the last few minutes, Steve, I want to respect your time and my listening audience time. Is there anything I haven't asked you or that you haven't had a chance to share that you'd love to share with my listening audience?
Probably just two things. One, I did get to witness you speaking at the AADGP. So if no one has seen Greg present, I would highly encourage it. You're going to learn a lot. He's a professional up there on the stage, and he basically owns that stage. So I highly encourage anyone that's out selling to learn from Greg. And then the second portion would be, we have purchased a fourth organization, which is called Implant, and they sell the oxygen plug strips and blocks for socket preservation. We see a tremendous opportunity in the DSO space. Once again, kind of that under treatment. I think there's a lot of opportunity to educate patients on what socket preservation is, get dentists a little more comfortable in presenting that to patients and doing the actual procedure. To help patients for whether they're going to be going into implant dentistry today or down the road. But it's a phenomenal product that has a great handling aspect to it and it has a great value price associated with it. And it's probably one of the easiest branded products to use on the market to preserve a socket. So we're excited for where this product line is going to go.
Yeah, well, I'm humbled by your words. Thank you so much for that. And Implant has been around for a very long time and has a really good track record. So congratulations on that acquisition. And thank you so much, Steve, for being a guest on the Two Sleuth podcast. The conversation has been enlightening. I've learned a lot. And thank you for filling in the blanks when I couldn't come up with Branson's phrase and talking about Teen Wolf. That was the name of the movie. I just came up with it, Teen Wolf, with Michael J. Fox. So thank you so much. And I wish you nothing but great success. And I'll see you on the road at a dental conference near you. So thank you so much.